Good morning, class. Good morning, beautiful people. Since everyone is admitted here in our virtual meeting for today's discussion, so before we start, I just want to tell you our classroom rules or e-rules in class. So, again, good morning. As per the rules in our virtual conference, let me remind you again about our classroom rules. The first one is, no one is allowed to share the link to other section or to any person that is not belonging to the class. The rule number 2 is, once you entered the link, please mute your microphone. The rule number 3 is, always turn on your camera. The rule number 4, you can use the comment box if you have concerns. And the last and fifth rule is, be mindful of our action, be polite and respect your teachers and your other classmates while video conferencing. And to bless this meeting with hopes and aspiration, let's start our day in a prayer. And I'm asking Miss Carla Shane Rialuyo to unmute your mic and lead us in a prayer. Thank you, Carla. Okay, class, let's have an attendance first. Once I call your name, kindly unmute your microphone and say present. Rialuyo Carla. Montifalco Ibes. Sabando Angeli. Hablang Alfred, and Pascual Jellicaan. Thank you. So, how are you, class? So, today is a brand new day for us to learn something essential again. Are you excited for another learning? By the way, I'm formally introducing myself. I'm Mr. Marlo B. Balmaceda II, your social studies teacher for the year 2020-2021. So, and let's become motivated, and I will share in quotation for the for today's food for thought is, teaching is only demonstrating that is possible. Learning is making it possible for yourself, by Paulo Coelho. So, class, teaching is a given and process, and it's only can be an effective cycle if you, as a student, teach yourself to be a learner. Meaning to say, it starts within yourself. That teaching will be possible if you as a student let yourself to be taught by others or the more knowledgeable than you. Because teaching must become in two matters, the educators and learners. So help yourself to learn as well as what your teachers do, which is helping the class for understanding and grasp knowledge. And to formally open and start the discussion, at the end of the lesson, the successful learners will be able to, first, define what is political geography. Second is discuss how political geography takes place. The third one is understand the political ideologies. And the last one is differentiate those political ideologies. So the topic today for today's discussion is political geography and its ideology. And looking to the present PowerPoint, I call Mr. Alfred Hamlang to give the first definition in political geography. Thank you, Alfred. So in first definition that Mr. Alfred Hamlang read is, political geography is being defined as it interested in both spatially unequal outcomes of political processes as well as the way in which political processes are influenced by spatial structure. How about the next definition? Mr. John Michael, can you unmute your microphone and read the second definition? Thank you, John Michael. The political ideology also is being defined as one of the geographer described it that political geography is the study of political occurrences in their areal environment. The study of relationship between humans and their environment and their political institution is known as the political geography. So, in the first two definitions, it's clear and understand, class? Yes. So, let's move on and I will read the remaining definition and I will discuss it. So, if you have concern, just feel free to comment in our chat box in this virtual meeting. So, in France, Yves Lacoste founded that the journal Herodote in 1976 to introduce French geographer to some of the radical ideas of country's new generation of social and political theories. So, there's a person behind the radical ideas in the state of social political theories. To name him is Yves Lacoste, being founded the journal Herodote in the year of 1976. So, the next definition of political geography is advanced knowledge in all aspects of geographical and spatial dimensions of politics and political. So in political geography, we pertaining the spatial dimension in politics for its wide, for its viewed, and for its perspective in idea. So we can build in social political structure in one nation. So moving on, the second to the last is political geography is a branch of geography that deals with the human government, the boundaries and subdivisions of political units as nations or states, and institution of cities. So in political geography, as a being a branch of geography, a study and mechanism in related to human government, the set and inherited boundaries, standards, requirements, and subdivisions in the units to politics. And lastly, the last definition to discuss for the political geography is the development of political geography began with the growth of human geography as a separate geographic disciplines from physical geography. So the connection of human and politics is indeed as we build better and bolder foundation in political structures that will be set in our state for the innovation, development, for empowering also of the human resource that we have. So class, political geography is stated as the perspective in state for political structure. It's connected to the human resource power and power of determination for better political bodies government. So class, after listening the discussion about the political geography, how can you define the political geography based on your understanding? Thank you, Carla. It's correct. Another answer from the class. Very well said, Alfred. So all the answers from the class was correct. So since we all understand what is political geography is, let's move on to the other focus in the discussion, which is the political ideologies. So we have 7 given political geographies and ideologies, and to name it, the 7 political ideologies are the socialism, communism, anarchism, liberalism, fascism, nationalism, and lastly is conservatism. So class, if you have question while I'm defining and discussing the political ideologies, kindly unmute your mic or use the comment section and said, "Sir, permission to speak." Okay? Great. So the first one is the socialism. It's political, social, and economic philosophy encompassing a range of economic and social system characterized by social ownership of the means of production and democratic control. So socialism is a geographical, sociological, and economic philosophy that encompasses a variety of economic and social system. So typified by democratic governance and social ownership of the means of production or producing or manufacturing. The second one is communism. So it's a political, philosophical, social, economic ideology and movement whose goal is to establish a communist society, namely socio-economic order structured upon the ideas of common ownership of the means of production and the absence of social classes. So the communism is a theoretical, societal, cultural, and ideological position and movement aimed at establishing a communist society. So a socio-economic system based on the ideal of ownership of the means of production and loss of social classes. The third one is the anarchism. It is the belief that the best government is absolutely no government. This ideology argues that everything about governments is repressive and therefore must be abolished entirely. A related ideology known as nihilism emphasizes that everything but government and society must be periodically destroyed in order to start new. Nihilists often categorically reject the traditional concept of morality in favor of violence and terror. So anarchism is the view that the optimum form of government is none at all. The philosophy contends that all the aspects of government are oppressive and as a result must be abolished completely. Therefore, moral relativism, a related philosophy, emphasizes that everything includes government and society must be diminished or destroyed on a regular basis in order to start over new government. So let's go further. The fourth political ideologies is liberalism, also known as classical liberalism, begun in England in 1600s, differs from American liberalism. So classical liberalism developed when such thinker as John Locke thought that relationship between the humans and the society, as well as theorized about the rights and responsibilities of the individuals. These ideas formed the foundation for many political systems that still running today and operating today. Liberalism also emphasizes individualism, freedom, equality, rationalism, and progress. So, to dignify also that liberalism is a classical liberalism which originated in England in 1600s and differs from American liberalism. It's sometimes known as classical liberalism, arose from rethinking of individuals, society, relationship, as well as theorizing about individual rights and obligations by intellectuals like John Locke. So many political systems that still exist today are based on these notions. Individualism, freedom, equality, rationalism, and progress are hallmark in liberalism. So the fifth one is fascism. Is a highly nationalist and militaristic and totalitarian political ideology in which one person has absolute power. World War I was the key event that spawned fascism. The war was the first major war fought between industrialized nations which armed with technology such as machine, guns, and chemical weapons. The result was utter devastation. Millions died, entire countries collapsed, and those who survived often profoundly disillusioned. For many people, the war showed the modern ideas that had failed, and the new way of was needed. So the fascism is a political ideology that is fearlessly nationalist by the military and dictatorial, with one person wielding unlimited control. The fundamental event that generated fascism was the World War I. The war was the first major conflict between industrialized nations that used technologies like machines, guns, and such a chemical weapon, and the outcome was completely catastrophes. Thousands of peoples, millions of peoples was died. The entire country and nations was being collapsed and delusion. And the war demonstrated to individuals that the modern concept had failed and we need a fresh and appropriate new way of system was required. And the second to the last for this topic and this discussion is the nationalism is an idea and movement that holds that the nation should be congruent with the state. As a movement, nationalism tends to promote the interests of a particular nation, as in a group of people, especially with the aims of gaining and maintaining the nation's sovereignty over its homeland. So, to be direct and to simplify, that nationalism is a concept and organization that maintains the country and state should be in sync. So nationalism as a campaign seek to advocate the values of a specific nation's interests as opposed to a group of people, particularly with the one goal for attaining preserving independency over the one's country. And the last one in the political ideology among seven is the conservatism, began as the reaction against the liberal ideas, taking hold the Europe during the Fourth Revolution in the late 18th century. This type of conservatism differs from American conservatism. Edmund Burke, a British member of parliament, observed the early stage of French Revolution with great distress and predicted violence and terror that would ensue. His book, Reflection on the Revolution in France, published in 1790s, is one of the founding texts of classical conservatism. So conservatism emphasizes only stability, concreteness, and uniqueness circumstances. So the conservatism begins as the relationship to the during the Protestant Reformation in the late 18th century. The liberal ideas swept over Europe. And this style of conservative is distinct from that the United States, that Edmund Burke, a Scottish member of parliament, was distressed by the early phases of French Revolution and prophesied that ensue that violence and terror. So observation to the French Revolution published in his book of in 1970s is considered as one of the enabling texts of classical conservatives, that the term conservatism is only referring or emphasizing or focusing to philosophy that stress stability, concreteness, and one-of-a-kind condition. So class, that's it. This is the end of our presentation for today's topic about political geography and its ideology. And to sum up the ideas in discussion, that political geography is a discipline of geography concerned with the human government, political boundaries and subdivision, physical force, cultural norms, and legal rights, and resistance to dominance, expressions of power, as well as political ideologies that we have already established are all recognized as form of power in political geography. The tackled and discussed ideologies earlier represent a group of individuals' forms of particular cultural view, ideas, and philosophy. It may refer to a set of ethical principles for how a state should be governed as exposed by political philosophers in the field of politics. In political geography, there is also the view known as environmental determinism, which holds the environmental features directly determine the aspect of human behavior and society, was propounded by many Enlightenment philosophers who argued that differences among peoples were not innate but were due to climate, landscape, and other environmental factors. It justified colonialism, racism, imperialism, which have military and political consequences. And to test if all of you gain knowledge today and information is what is the concern with the study of both the spatially uneven outcomes of political processes and the way in political processes are themselves affected by a spatial structure. Anyone, please unmute your mic if you want to answer. Yes, Alfred? Right, political geography. And give one political ideologies among 7. Yes, Yves? Socialism, right? Carla, anarchism, right? Alfred, communism, right? John Michael, liberalism, right? Angeli, fascism, right? Jalika, conservatism, right? And then Dave, nationalism, right? So, thank you for listening and accompanying me for this virtual discussion. And for the assignment, I will post in our Google Classroom. So kindly check it. Thank you.